You guys, get it on. Welcome back to Past You Full, What Do You Buy for the Lab? Downward Nutrition by Maxa and Capital Cycles. Let me tell you all about my weekend at the New Zealand Masters Games in the river city of Wanganui. The three events this year: the time trial, the hill climb, and the road race. I won all of them, which was nice. And I'll tell you technically what I did, what helped me, and what I learnt afterwards. Some thoughts about deciding like what kind of rider you are and how you apply that to tactics on the road, especially as it pertains to road racing. So I'll talk you through that. There's some tools as well you can use if you're collecting data, especially power data, over more than about a year. You can quite quickly figure out where your skills and weaknesses are, and what you're going to do about that. So let's run through the events, shall we? We've got on Friday the individual time trial. Moving time 27:45 for me. I did the second. I'll just say I did win my grade, but I got the second fastest time out of everyone on the day. The fastest time was Glenn Kirk, I believe, who was about 10 seconds faster than me. He took that all out of me in the second half. When I did the comparison tool in the Strava. So 27:45, my official time might have been a couple of seconds faster than that. Distance of 20 k's, climbing of 84, just a little bit rolling in part of it. 549, two McDonald's hamburgers consumed in energy. Average speed of 43.2 kilometers an hour. So an average power of 323 watts for a normalized to 325. Not where I wanted it to be. And like if you're looking at the screen, my power distribution is a little bit more stochastic, a little bit rougher than I normally like it to be. I like to be very balanced and consistent in the time trial, and not my best power and not my best time trial ever. This course had a lot of sort of course chip and rough road and a little bit of undulation towards that top half, and I sort of felt like I couldn't really settle that well into my power. I felt a little bit sort of jostled around, a little bit of a gusty wind, and I don't know if I've got any real message for that. I think that was the main reason. Like, if maybe the takeaway is in a time trial, if you can relax your upper body, start getting to a really good pendulum style rhythm, you find that if you watch your power, the better your rhythm and the better relaxed you are, the more your power starts coming up. It's very natural to see, and I don't know, I just felt like I couldn't really get into that rhythm, but that's okay. It was still a good ride, and that's not, let's just look just quickly at that power. So 325 watts on an undulating course for over 43 kilometers an hour. That's not bad. My drag, I think I've got down to it's a non-UCI legal position because my hands are about 10 centimeters higher than they would be in the UCI legal position, and that cuts my drag from a UCI legal about 0.24 to around about 0.22, could be even better than that. And that's why, I sort of, when I looked at the course, I could see where I gained time was in fast, open sections where I could get that real good pendulum rhythm on, get in a good aero position, and go fast. Whereas the accelerations, the little climbs, were where I lost. I don't know, it's just an interesting little thing. So gold, but second fastest time overall for the time trial. So the hill climb was the next day at Okaya Valley Road. So duration, so what have we got? 3 minutes 40. So I think I did about 3:38 was my time, something like that, which was the gold medal in my grade and was fastest time on the day. Distance of only 1.5 k's, so a climb of only just under about 90 meters, 89 meters, 107, so not even half a McDonald's hamburger consumed. But when you think about it, oxidizing 107 kilojoules in 3 minutes and 40 seconds, almost like you could imagine holding a hamburger in your hand and seeing it disappear, or half of it disappear in 3 minutes. I don't know, that'd be quite cool. What do we got? This I was quite happy with. Because it's a really short hill climb, I could quite clearly look at my power curve, my maximum. I mean, here's what I did. Went and stalked away on Strava, the segment, looked at what the KOM was, figured I would be doing around about that time, then looked at my power curve, looked at what I'm capable of putting out at a maximum for that period of time. So we're looking at about, Tristan Thomas just rode past. Hey, Tristan. Looking at about 3.5 minutes, whatever it was, and I looked at my power curve. I think my best ever power curve for that time was about 480 watts. Now, that wasn't done in a time trial like this, and because I'm fresh, I figured I wanted to go just a touch higher, because in an event like this, you can decide what your target power is going to be. You can get into it, you can sit there, you're probably going to hold a little better than what you would, in the middle of a road race or something like that, when you're not specifically going for a record. And that worked out pretty good. I think I did what I could do. You always think you can do a little bit more, but I think the reality, it was probably about my best. So, meaning I did a power of 487 watts, which was good. I wore an aero helmet because even though it's a hill climb, the first half was actually a false flat uphill, and I think there was a little time to be gained there, so I did. Average cadence 89, and really something like this, we reconned the hill. It's a relatively steady gradient, nothing wildly exciting about it. What do we got here? From the start of the hill to the top, took me 2 minutes 48 seconds. Average flow 80 watts, cadence 87, average grade of 9.4%. That's reasonably steep, I suppose. Here's what I did in the recon. Kind of figured out if I could stay in my big ring or not, and I did. And maybe here's the beauty of running a compact chain set. So a compact chain set means you're running a big ring, which is 50 tooth, which is quite smaller than the traditional 53 or 52, and you're running quite a big cassette on the back. So I run an Ultegra, actually that was a 30 now that I think about it. Sometimes I run an Ultegra 32 because I really like that little gear, but I was running a 30 Durace. So I had a 50-30, and if you look at my cadence in the middle steepest section, the cadence line here, which is green if you're looking, blue, minimum cadence about 71 RPM at target power. So that's not bad. Obviously that's lower than optimum, but that cadence was only for a while. The average cadence on the climb, despite staying in the big ring, was, what did I just say, 87, which is fine. You're still reasonably efficient at, low 80s or so. So the benefit there's a couple of benefits. Well, you don't have to change gear and come off the power for a couple of seconds, and also risk a drop chain or chain suck or something like that. So it reduces the risk if you can stay in the one ring. And also, like, the way it works out is that if you're in, a bigger ring at the front and a bigger cog at the back, here's what's happening. Your chain is deforming less because it's going around a bigger circle. And because the links in the chain, which are effectively miniature bearings, deform less, there is less power loss because they're bending less. And, that only adds up to a few watts. But, if we're talking about a short hill climb, we're saving 5 watts. There's definitely a second or two in that, definitely. And it's entirely plausible that in an event that's really short like this, that couple of seconds, that 2 seconds, or whatever it works out to, could be the difference between third or second or first on the podium or whatever. So here's what I'm saying is reduces the risk and it improves your power a little, your efficiency, your drivetrain efficiency, but you do have to recon it at target power to make sure you're not going to get super bogged and get below about 60 RPM, because you find that you're going to have to get out of the saddle and things are going to get super ugly. So that was the hill climb. So for me, one other thing I'll point out if you're looking at the data here is sort of into target power and position, 12 seconds, 13 seconds, 14 seconds. Happy with that. I think in any time trial, it's really important. Know your target power. Be after a smooth, powerful acceleration, but not crazy. 750 watts there to get up to speed quickly. You settle in, and if you feel like you are bulletproof and you can put out an astonishing amount of power for the first minute, don't be tempted. You will burn out super quick. So just go into that target power. If you've got your target power right, you will be on the limit at the end, but you'll maximize your speed in the meantime. Don't be tempted to overdo it in that first 30 seconds to a minute, guys. You will pay. Alright, last event was the road race, and this is a really cool, I've said this before, the circuit around Brunswick Road in Wanganui is super cool, and it has a magic quality. I still can't quite figure this out. You know how some road surfaces are super slow? This is the opposite, and it doesn't even look that great. Like, it has such a nice quality. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it sounds super weird. There's like a lot more, like a lot of tar. Any road surface is a mixture of aggregate and tar. I feel like there's a lot of tar and not as much aggregate on this road, and so it seems to run really fast. Maybe it's faster because it's a smoother surface for a higher proportion of the tyre content. I don't know, but for whatever reason, it feels good. Maybe it isn't any faster. It just feels nice because maybe the tar deadens out the hits a little or something. But it feels nice to ride on. If you have a chance, I really strongly recommend doing it. It's sort of like almost exactly a 10k circuit. In the main feature, it's got everything. It's got wide open sections through fields. It's got fast descents, a medium grade to steep, nice climb, twists and turns, narrow. It's got everything. So it's this nice little 10 kilometer circuit with a bit of everything. All right, so let's just go through the stats, and then I'll tell you what happened, because it was a good legs day for me. So what did I do? 1 hour 42 minutes, 66 k's, climbing of 492 meters. So you can see, what is that? Maybe 80 or 90 meters of climbing per lap. 1800 kilojoules. Where's 1900? Let's say 5 or 6 McDonald's hamburgers consumed. Average speed of 38.6 kilometers an hour. average power 305 watts, heart rate 146, cadence bang on, 90 RPM, effective power 324. Not a big difference between the actual power and the effective power because it was a very linear power delivery, and it's because I broke away early. So I don't know. Here's the short version, which is, even though this isn't a hugely short road race, I mean, it's not long, but it's a medium length road race for Masters. I felt so good at first. I just wanted to keep, I don't know, just attacking off the front. And if you're looking at the data here, really we started, I had a brief attack. I always like to do this move where I don't really attack off the front, I just go off the front and see what the mood of the bunch is from the gun. And I feel like nothing ever happens really, well, not, sometimes it does actually, but you can feel out the mood of the bunch. Are they in a mood where they're going to chase things down and work? Are they cooperative? Are they lazy? You tell a lot, sort of like a little, I like this move as a little tester. Down the first descent, where I strung it out, because I do like the descent, and then strung it out at first climb, just to see what the bunch was riding like. So first climb is 2 minutes, almost exactly, 422 watts, just sitting there just over threshold power, to see what the state of the bunch was going to be like. At the top of the climb, it had strung out a wee bit already, and I did my move, which was not really a strong attack, up to maybe 850 or 900 watts or something, just for a few seconds off the front, and then a reasonably firm, only 1.5 minutes at a reasonably firm 456 watts, just moving up to closer to VO2 max, and to see again, sort of feel it out. And I noticed it straight away. I opened the gap, and then you're in two minds, because I sort of thought someone would come across with me and would have some version of a 2-up or 3-up 10 time trial away from the weaker riders for the rest of the course. Unfortunately, no one did, and I opened up an okay gap, and I could sort of see it wasn't really panic stations in the bunch. So I thought, well, yeah, here we go. This is going to be a 60 kilometre time trial on my own, basically. There's always that first few minutes where you do look around. I mean, if there is some really decisive chase and it's clear that you're going to be pulled back in 5 minutes, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of burying yourself for that. But if you do that move where you're in the drops, you look under your shoulder, just a arrow, and you can see that it's funny how even if people are 100 meters, 200 meters back, you can still sort of see from body position and the tone of things how the group is riding. And I could see that people were working, but not really hard. You can see if guys are down in the drops working really hard, you can sort of see it. So after about 5 minutes of this, my mind was mostly made up. So then it's kind of like decision time, because you want to, here's another, power related tip, which is it's really good in a circumstance like this where you are going to have to ride by yourself for a long time to stay away. Well, what is the maximum pace or power really I can sustain for this time? Because you want to be at the top end of that, but you need to know where it is, because the top end of that, well, that feels wildly different. But in the first 5 minutes, you feel like you can sustain 380 watts, 5 watts per kilo, and then 20 minutes into that, you're dying, and it's too late then. You will have to have a very good period of recovery. So what is the maximum pace I can shift myself down this road? We're going to base that on power. How do you know? Okay, so lactate testing that I do as a job tells us that. And if you're an experienced rider, you probably have with power, you probably have a good sense anyway. Where you want to be is near the top of your maximum aerobic function, sort of between your aerobic threshold, 2 millimoles of lactate per litre of blood, and 4, usually synonymous with your lactate threshold, which is the sort of pace you can sustain for about 20 minutes. Your lactate 2, your aerobic threshold, you can maintain almost all day. You want to be a little higher than that, somewhere in between. Some people call it your sweet spot. And you know, depending on the time you're going to be away, you might want to just tweak that a little. So, okay, I'm away on my own, and I want to ride at what I think is that ideal pace. Okay, so for me, my lactate threshold, my lactate 4, is about 400 watts at the moment. My lactate 2, my aerobic threshold, that's about 200 and it's about 300. So 300 is kind of the bottom end, 400 is the top end. Now you don't want to go in the middle because the way the curve is not linear. Your lactate 3 is usually going to be somewhere around under half of that, so 350. So my lactate 3 is about 330, 340 watts. So okay, that's what I can do, and if I was really having to haul, that's what I would sustain for a couple of hours. But I want it to be a little conservative, and also bearing in mind this is all work on the flat and the drops, so I tweak that down. So in my mind, I've got this lactate 3 figure, the sweet spot I want to be at. I'm thinking 330 watts, and I'm thinking just for a little comfort, just for a little sustainability, just a tiny bit of insurance, I'm going to go 320. So 320 is my target. So let's have a look, see what I did. I won't take the first lap, that's probably a little skewed high because I was trying to break away. But let's look at the second one. Let's take the whole second lap, including, don't really want to include the climb, that's going to be a little bit higher of course too. So for the remainder of the lap, the flat part of the lap, about 13 minutes worth. Well, look at that, 317 watts for an EP of 320. Okay, let's take the third lap. Let's see how well I pace this. I should be good at this. Second lap, 305 watts, a little lower. So I may have been a little conservative there. Fourth lap, 303 watts, so again, a little conservative. That does take into account a couple of dips in the road. Let's not worry about that. Fourth, 301, and the last, probably skewed a little higher again. It's the last lap, 314. So I'd say, if I was looking for 320 watts, if you averaged all those out, I probably did about 310 to 315, a little higher on the first and second. Not bad. And taking into account a couple of dips in the road, you know, the periods where I was really just in the rhythm, a good chunk like this, if I'm looking at, there's a long section here, about 5 minutes, very steady, third lap in, 319 watts. So I think that helped a lot. Probably a little lower than what I could do, but I wanted to be conservative. It was a hot day, 27 degrees at the time or something. Let's look at the temperature. Got up to 20, this is 20 degrees here, a little bit earlier, 21 degrees, maybe 22 at the end. A little hotter for the guys later in the day. By the way, you can see, if you are looking at the screen, you can see how, even though the power delivery is very steady, the heart rate line does come down a little bit gradually over time. If you look at the second lap, averaging a heart rate of, for an average power of 325 in the second lap, averaging 152 beats, but by the second to last lap, averaging 308, so only less than 20 watts lower, but heart rate down to 143, so almost 10 beats lower, and that's sort of normal. It's just what you see as a bit of fatigue creeps in. Not really sure why, of all of the reasons for that, but this is what happens. So that's what I think about pacing if you find yourself in that position. I don't know, one other feature, okay, the hill, that's a 2-minute climb-ish. So I'm thinking, you know, it's important to keep your speed up, and for a climb like that, a nice threshold effort is good. So what did I say? My threshold was 400, and again I might want to go a little conservative, because bumping up to threshold or even slightly over it, being a lot matches a lot quicker than being just under it. So if I could guess, I haven't really looked at this, if I was looking at this as a coach and it was my rider, I would say I want you to be riding that climb at an average of about 380, 390 watts each lap that you're away by yourself. That's your lactate threshold minus about 10 watts just to be safe. Okay, let's see what I did. I don't know, let's just choose one here that looks nice and consistent. This one here is pretty consistent. Second to last lap or third to last lap. So from the bottom to the top, little acceleration at the bottom, 2 minutes 11 seconds, 374 watts. Pretty good. Slightly less than that sort of 380 I was talking about. So what I did in this one here, a little earlier in the race, a little more of a consistent climb from me, 426 watts. So probably did that one a little high, but I was probably, a little fresher. It's a little earlier in the race. So if I was coaching this rider, who was me, I would say you picked your flat power about right in sweet spot, about 320 watts, just under, and climbs, when you're just under threshold, about 380 watts, 370 watts, pretty good. So I would give this rider a pass. The rider was me, and ultimately ended up staying away by about, I think, 2 minutes or something like that over the bunch. Lee Campbell coming in, sprinting like a maniac for second pull basket, legend in Masters Cycling Club history for having insane hill climb times, which I'm slowly trying to knock off over the years, coming in third. So that was some thoughts, and the last thing I'll mention, see how I'm going for time here. It doesn't matter. Oh, good. Last thing I'll say is this part where you sort of analyse what your skills are as a rider. And, a lot of people have thoughts about that that aren't necessarily based on reality. I always like this idea as a coach and as a rider, and actually just maybe as a general way to go through life, base your opinions on facts and evidence rather than feelings. The great Ben Shapiro says, facts don't care about your feelings. And I feel the same way about cycling, which is don't use your feeling about something, use your evidence as much as you can. So there's a good tool in cycling analytics which got me thinking about this, called the what do we got here? Called the statistics page here. If you're looking at the screen, if you're not, it's under athlete statistics. Scroll right down. Got this weird little rainbow sort of graph here. I like this view. This tells you over the last, couple of months worth of data for all athletes, there's a male and a female version, who have data uploaded into this software, probably over, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them, maybe over 1 million at this point, worldwide, the power they can sustain, like basically a power curve and how you fit into that. So if you're looking at the screen here, the black line represents the percentile you fit into. So if I hover over here, so this is me, 2 minutes, for about 2 minutes, my best effort is in the 95th percentile of riders loaded in cycling analytics. That's pretty good. So I can hold more power than 95% of them, and that's for down the x-axis, the bottom here, for all time periods between 1 second and about an hour and a half they've got there. So where you rate how much power you can hold. By the way, there's in terms of outright power, like watts, and watts per kilo. So watts divided by your weight as that rates. So you can use a tool like this, or your own data, you kind of want to have some comparison. So this is good to have an objective comparison. I suppose you could compare just by your experience racing. But here's what I'm saying. If you use this as some basis of a data point of evidence about how you rate, it can inform how you're going to race. So if I'm looking at this curve, this is a guy, me, who can time trial pretty well because my power, as it compares to other people, is quite high from about as time goes on. So as time goes on, I can sustain power better than 90% of riders. But on the downside, you can see as I rate, I'm only in the 70 something percentile for power under about 10 seconds, or even about 20 seconds. So my sprint, the amount of the power I can sustain for short periods of time is relatively low. So how might this, as a data point, start thoughts in your mind about tactics? Well, this is telling me I don't really want to be in a bunch sprint, or probably any kind of sprint, but especially a bunch sprint where there could be very strong short power riders, because I'm probably going to get outgunned a lot of the time. That is my experience on the road as well. I don't really know. I think for me it's not really the amount of power as it's related to my weight. About 1100 or 1200 watts for maybe 5 or 10 seconds or something, but I don't have any sort of snap. It could be that perhaps I don't have a high proportion of fast twitch muscle fibers, whatever it is. But it's saying I might be a rider who wants to break away early and sustain a relatively high amount of power. Or, even if it's a 5 minute from the finish, well, whatever it is, that informs me about what my leverage is, what I can do. There are other riders who are completely the reverse, and I might be counselling that sort of rider to say, hey, look, if there's any version of events where you get to try to keep a bunch together, try to have a bunch sprint, you might want to work on your tactics around positioning in a sprint. You might want to actually work on how you're going to keep a bunch together or help motivate people to stay together in a bunch and chase breakaways. So that can inform a lot about you. You might be sort of an all-rounder. You might have a specialty. I've seen this, where guys aren't that strong, long or short, but they have this great, VO2 max power, this 3 minute power, or not even power. Maybe the power's not that great. Maybe the power to weight is. So that's quite specialised. And you're saying, well, maybe here's a guy who needs to actually find weight for a steeper the better, medium length, shortish climb, and really attack there. That's what you need to do if you want to win. So there's versions of this which pertain to how you ride, the terrain that you're going to go well on, and inform your tactics as a whole. Something I really like to talk through with riders. And maybe in the sort of, that's the short term, which is telling you how to race in a race. The long term might be how you want to develop as a rider. And sort of famously, I used to be specialised in mountain bike racing because that's where my racing started. And mountain bike racing requires relatively short periods of high power to weight ratio and good technical skills. I don't have either of those. That's not my skill set. You can see it from a graph like this. What is a sustained power. So I changed my cycling career to become more of a time trialist, did the hour record, and it's informed some of my tactical choices. And that's why It seems counterintuitive to break away so early in a race like I did yesterday, but it can work out if you know what you're doing in the race, why you're doing it with the power levels you're doing it at, when you're doing it. You've got some evidence for what you're doing. And maybe the last thing I'll say is, none of this guarantees you anything. All it does, like any tactics in racing, is massage the odds a bit better in your favour. And that's all you're doing. And tactically, don't get upset if your A plan or your B plan doesn't work out. Just think of you're massaging the odds in your favour. People who go to Vegas and spend big don't, get upset if they put it all on black and it comes up white, or however really it works. They play the odds game after game after game after game, have a tactic and a strategy. And bike racing's a bit like that. So I hope you found that useful. Next weekend is the first round of the PNP Summer Grand Fondo Series. I strongly recommend coming out to that. It's a mass start. Everyone starts at once. You get to find out where you really sit. It's a short version, Medio Fondo, about 70-80 Ks. Long version, Grand Fondo, 90 to 110 Ks. I'm doing the Grand Fondo. And it's a very high quality racing. So it's good to see race against juniors and masters and all that. I'll do my best as an old bloke. I'll try to get to Wellington Masters Cycling Club 40 kilometre individual time trial at Kahutra in the Wairarapa the next day. I'll see how broken I am after the PNP road race. So we are coming into the heavy duty part of the season. I hope I can sustain good form. We'll see how we go. So hey guys, if you want a coaching plan or testing from me, you can email me, steve@fitlab.co.nz. You can go to our website, fitlab.co.nz. You can look at the comments under this video. You can see discount codes for Biomaxa and Tailwind Nutrition, which I was using on the weekend. By the way, who sell Cramp Fix, which has saved my ass 3 races in a row. If you feel cramp coming on, take a Cramp Fix, makes the cramp go away. Never had that feeling again that you finished the race where you still had plenty of energy, but you just cramped and it ruined your race. Go get Cramp Fix. There's a discount code for you under this video. So thank you for watching. As always, this is brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomax, Capital Cycles. Hey, thanks for listening, guys. See you on the weekend.